But can you tell us what kind of rigorous schedule you have to follow in order to perform, as they said on Britain's Got Talent, flawlessly?
Well, you have to practice every day. And you have to be kind to your voice. So no smoking and no drinking lots of alcohol. Obviously, I do dabble with a nice drink or two, but if you're going to be performing that week or weeks prior, then it's a no-go area. There's no point. With me, alcohol does affect the voice. I then sound quite like I'm a baritone. Um, and if I don't get enough sleep, or I'm just not well rested in my mind as well, there's a lot to go with it. Mental health is a massive thing. If I'm not in the right frame of mind, then my performance will suffer. Probably the audience won't notice.
I started teaching myself how to sing during the first quarantine of COVID. I've always been in choirs and things like that, but we actually had some friends, we visited with some friends, and I was singing Till I Hear You Sing from Love Never Dies, and they kind of just wanted me to start a YouTube, so I just did.
So besides singing and playing guitar and going on cruises to Cayman Islands, what else do you like to do?
I sail.
You
So
sail.
yeah. I sail on like a one-person, one-sail dinghy boat called a laser, and I've been sailing since I was like about 13.
And you kept that from us? Really?
Yeah.
Sailing, that's amazing. Do you have problems keeping it afloat, or do you sometimes fall over?
Yeah, I've had my moments where I've tipped over and
He looked really serious, and I said, "You look serious?" And he said, "I am." And I said, "Is it cancer?" And he goes, "It is, Michelle." And I said, "What kind do you think it is?" And he said, "I think it's lymphoma, but we're going to send you to the Moncton Hospital by ambulance today, and they're going to deal with you." And he sent me to Dr. Rubin, and Dr. Rubin is one of the best doctors. Like, honestly, I think he's internationally known. He's a really good oncologist. And he admitted me into the Moncton Hospital I was there over a month, and I wasn't allowed to pick up my baby anymore because I could break my back. And so if they did bring her by a couple times to see me, but I was really sick. I mean, so we ended up finding out that I had 2 masses in my chest, one in my liver. It was in my bones through my left hip and my T11 vertebrae.
I was that little girl putting on shows for her parents. I think I've seen, I mean, I don't remember any of this. I've seen their video recordings of me, and they're very cringe. And maybe I'll share them with people one day. It would be funny. But, when I close the curtains and say, "Everybody sit down, we're doing a show." And then I'd come out and I'd sing a little song from The Little Mermaid or something. But it's funny how I was a confident child. And then during my school years, I was really a very shy performer and a shy person in school as well. So I didn't, the teachers would find me very shy. I wouldn't talk much. And I loved singing.
That's true. Do you remember what your very first performance was and where it was?
I remember a very early performance, and I wasn't actually singing. I was playing the harp, and I must have been, I don't know, about 10 years old. I was part of an ensemble of harps playing on the stage of St. David's Hall here in Cardiff.
Who's the most famous musician out there, the one that's been around that you actually have sung with?
I mean, I did it was a very it wasn't planned, performance, improvisation with Bobby McFerrin.
Oh, wow. Nice.
That was pretty amazing. Yeah.
What do you think of The Voice or American Idol or Canadian Idol? Is that something that you had a desire to do, or that's something you just wanted to avoid?
Yeah, I've definitely thought about it. I do know I think it's a really great way for people to get out there and have their name out there and be known.
you know, especially people who just don't have the means or like the knowledge, like to be able to do that, or the connections.
We want to get back to talking about your humanitarianism. Tell us more about that.
Humanitarianism. I think
Humanitarianism.
totally. You know, I always like to volunteer and be as much service as I can. It's something that I would love to be a pillar in my art and in my brand and my work. In my work, you know. But yeah, I think especially with my family, we've always been involved in humanitarian efforts and social causes and, you know, that type of thing. It's just always been part of my life. So although I can't tie myself to any organizations or groups at this time, I'm always looking for it, and I will always be in support of lifting people up.
You ever thought of playing any like Mozart or Chopin? Well, you can't play Chopin except with a piano, I think. Mozart, maybe?
Yeah, you know, we are guitar is a very new young instrument, so we don't have a lot of repertoire, unfortunately. You know that we have to be careful what we choose, and you know, it's a very young, just simply young instrument, you know, that doesn't have the repertoire of piano, violin, and cello, and you know, so we. Of course, we play arrangements by Bach. You know, we cannot. Of course, there was lute, but there was no guitar at the time. So we're lucky to have, you know, beautiful arrangements by Bach. So Chopin is very difficult on guitar, almost impossible. It would have to be arranged very well, you know. So so we rely on these arrangements, but we have our own.
Does singing actually open up an opportunity for you to evangelize or share your faith with somebody?
You know, so I heard one of the most best. That's redundant. I heard one of the best messages that I've ever heard. A sermon. The pastor was sharing how to evangelize, and he said, you don't have to be you know, Bible thumping street evangelist. And he used a story of his wife as an example. He said that a non-believer called him up while he was in his church's office. And this young man said, I want to know why you're a Christian. I want to know why you do what you do. And so he said, okay, come to my house.
So tell us, Rich, tell us something interesting about yourself. Most people don't know a little bit about yourself. Who is Rich Chambers?
Well, I'll tell you a neat bit of trivia. The only class I've ever failed in school and university is Band 11, if you can believe that. I actually failed Band 11. And it's because my teacher at the time said, okay, Rich, you just have to show up for this final exam, and I slept in. And so that's high school. I got, you know, and I finished with a master's degree and did a thesis on Beethoven. And so, but Band 11, I failed. There's one bit of neat trivia. But my love for music started when I was a small kid. Like a lot of musicians, it started as a little kid. My dad played guitar, and I can remember him pulling out guitars for family events, Christmas time, and things like that. And I was fascinated with what he was doing. I had my little toy Mickey Mouse guitar, and I'd be strumming next to him, and we'd be singing Christmas songs together. And I have one cool picture. I got to post it on my socials of me looking at my dad, and I was 4 years old.
Who were your understudies in case you were ill? Were they the second runner-up they chose?
Yeah, there was somebody, but thankfully I was very well for the whole of the run. So
I feel bad for the understudies because they can be an understudy and never get a chance to go. And I'm like, I feel so bad for them because it's terrible, because I think there were some understudies out there that they never even were able to go on because the actress was always on stage. They never faltered. And then one day they didn't show up and the understudy was able to take their place, and they ended up being better than them. And they went on to bigger things. And I'm like, oh, wow. What a thing.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think I was reading about David Jason the other day, about him. He was an understudy to somebody in a play, and then somebody, this guy was taken ill, and he got his opportunity, and he absolutely shone. And of course, we've all heard of David Jason.
So I want to do like a cover of, you're going to find this funny, of a Britney Spears song, my favorite Britney Spears song, Don't Let Me Be the Last to Know. Oh, I want to do it my way. I want to sing it my way as a tenor would sing it, because I'm a tenor. And I want to make sure that it gets to the point where people like it. What do I have to do in order to release it? I know I have to go through copyright channels or write people. I can't. Brittany might say, I'm suing you because you didn't ask or whatever.
I mean, the distribution companies that are out there now are pretty good in terms of when you go through these distribution companies and you submit your music, you do have to tell them, listen, I am doing a cover of this, and they will give those particular royalties over to the actual artist.
What does the Archdiocese think about a priest going off singing and getting recorded music and being on Britain's Got Talent and dancing with
There's been my bishop has been very supportive. I have a new bishop here. When it started first, my other bishop was actually from Old Castle here, Michael Smith was his name. He retired back about 3 years ago, and he was very supportive. Now, when I remember when I rang him up and told him I was going to be on Britain's Got Talent, he didn't even know what I was talking about, so because it wouldn't be something he'd be watching on television. When I don't know how he reacted initially from the Hallelujah thing. I mean, I never, I was just surprised when all that took off.
But I'd like to ask you about, so how did you determine that you were a mezzo soprano? Like I've heard the difference between alto, a mezzo, and a mezzo soprano, and it's totally different. How did you just suddenly say, hey, oh, and then you went down a little bit octave and you're, hey, I'm a mezzo soprano?
Well, actually, it's a never-ending story in trying to really determine my voice type, or Fach, as it's called in German. Mm-hmm. But probably the first indicator was when I was in my 20s, and I was a little bit lost myself trying to understand what path I should pursue. So whether it's a soprano or whether it's a mezzo. So what happened is, like, as I mentioned, when I was 14, 15, I had a free high range. I could sing Queen of the Night, right? And then it disappeared. And then I was struggling with the high range as I never did before. It was just gone.
If you could change anything about the industry, what would it be?
Give the spotlight to smaller artists. I think that's a huge problem that I've honestly seen with many people. And also, like, smaller artists have a bigger chance of signing bad contracts with people or getting into record labels that kind of take away their freedom from owning their own music and stuff. So I think it's just kind of like give a chance to the smaller artists, kind of help them out a little bit, like make it a bit easier for them to make it there,
Yeah, that's exactly. My advice is usually there's I don't know if you see the white plaque above there, but it says believe.
That's
right.
So
every time I get it, it's like, oh, believe,
Believe, that's right.
Yes. What goes into preparing a song like that? Like, you knew that you were going to be part of the concert. What did you do to prepare for that?
Yeah, well, it worked out at a really good time, actually, because when I got asked to do it, I was just in the middle of recording my new album, which is coming out at the end of this year. And I got this lovely message saying, would you like to be part of this show and this concert? Of course, I was like, I'd love to. What an amazing thing to do. And so what I did is we were recording the strings, actually, at the venue that I was at is St. George's here in the UK in Bristol. The most amazing venue, and it's just the most amazing place to perform and record. And we were recording the string parts, and I said that we've just been asked to do this concert. How about we record a song now and get up there and use the piano, because we were only recording strings. I wasn't doing anything vocally. I said, hang on, I said to producer, you must have a microphone around.